So the reason we wanted to talk about this, we actually started with this quiet quitting thing that you've probably seen all over the place, because I feel like it's become the new great resignation, you know, like these terms that actually, the thing that slightly frustrates me with these terms, like the headline clickbaity career terms, is that everyone gets bored of them really quickly because they see them in every headline and every article, and they're like, oh, more on the great resignation, more on quiet quitting. And I think that it disguises a really important insight behind it. So quiet quitting is all over the place, and it's kind of become a bit faddy and a bit TikToky as a term. Nothing wrong with TikTok, but you know what I mean. I think the insight behind it is really important, which is that people are tired. Like, people are tired and they feel like their boundaries have got a bit blurred, and they are trying to work out how to rebuild their boundaries, but maybe without the confidence or support to do it. So what's happening is people are kind of going, do you know what, enough, I'm just not going to do this anymore. But they're not doing it in an active way. They're not doing it in a confident way. They're just going, I'm no longer going to reply to that email. I'm out of working outside the hours that I'm paid to work. And I think that is, you know, that is your principle if you want to protect it. But I think it's much more empowering if you're active about how you have that conversation. So it's more a sort of, how do you leave loudly and confidently and clearly versus how do you quit quietly and maybe create a bit of ambiguity and uncertainty in how you're doing that. But I think the insight that people are tired and their boundaries are blurred and they're trying to put some boundaries back is really important. And that's why we wanted to call the podcast How to Redefine Your Relationship with Work, rather than how to quietly quit a job you might not want to do in the way you're currently doing it. Before I move on to some of the stuff that we talked about in the podcast, any insights generally? Has anyone got any perspectives on quiet quitting? Resilience and fortitude. So Reg just picking up there on the term fortitude as well, which is the name, just to give Bruce Daisley a bit of a plug. It's the name of Bruce Daisley's new book, which I loved and Sarah loved, and obviously we're a bit biased because we also love Bruce, but it's really interesting, fascinating book around fortitude. The bit that really stuck with me was the role of community in fortitude. Fortitude is, you know, effectively another word for resilience, but a lot of work around resilience focuses on the individual, like what do you need to do? How do you be more resilient? And actually a lot of our resilience comes from being part of communities, stuff like PodPlus, to be honest. Geordie says it's completely linked to whether I have joy in a job, and that was an obvious but still insightful thought. Yeah, I agree. If you're losing your joy, maybe you've not got the energy to kind of go beyond the official boundaries of the job. So one of the things that I thought was quite interesting is this shift in like the contract that we have with work. And really there are sort of two contracts that we have with work. So the first is the informal contract, and that is sort of like the rules of work. It's the one that gets sort of written down. It's the document that you get that states the hours you should do and all that kind of jazz, and the rules of work. And then there is also an informal contract, which is less about rules and it's more about your relationship with your work. It's more about what you want and expect and need, and what you are willing to give to your work in order to get it. And that stuff is personal and it is not written down. And because of that, it can be quite complicated. And sometimes the informal contract can sort of exist in your head and you never really articulate it. So it's quite hard. Like, let's say the people in my team, some of whom are here, they have an informal contract with me and Sarah and Amazing If about the relationship they want with the work. And if we don't have an open culture in our organization, I might not understand that. So I might not deliver on what they need from their work because I just don't understand it. And we all need and expect different things. And this is why this is quite complicated. And it's why it's quite hard for organizations to deliver on, because it is very personal and it is often quite hidden. But what we are seeing is some really big shifts in this. There are equally some shifts in formal contracts too, with in terms of the way the work gets done, particularly post-pandemic. But we are seeing some really big shifts in the psychology of the relationship we have with work. And we talk a little bit on the podcast about some of these psychological shifts. So one of the big ones, for example, was all about security. So for a long time, in organizations. We were really expecting security from our work, but this has moved more and more towards an expectation of employability. I expect my employer to give me skills to help me in this job and the one beyond it, whether that is in this company or another. Like, a company needs to make me more employable, or they're not helping me over the long term. And that is becoming increasingly important to people. The other thing is, people kind of wanted a sort of stable environment where their expectations were made, like, that's what that's all about. But now what people are looking for is a lot more flexibility. They're kind of okay with the squiggliness, but you need to give me the flexibility in my role to enable me to adapt to all of it. There's the whole thing around promotions that we sort of expected. Well, I'll work hard and I'll go up the ladder. But actually now people want progression. They definitely still want promotions, but they also want that to look, they want sideways moves. They want to be able to do side projects. They want to progress and develop in different directions. And that's part of the expectation we have now in the relationship we have with our employer. And then one of the other ones that we were focusing on in the podcast is this idea that, lots of people used to be attracted to an organization because of its sort of performance. Like, I have definitely chosen to work for, like, Procter & Gamble. I'll give you, like, I went to work for P&G because when I was like at uni, P&G was like the highest performing FMCG organization to go and work for. And I knew it would be a flag on my CV. And I also, like, I knew the brands were in my cupboard. So I was like, I understand what they sell. But it was like the best FMCG company. But that is less and less now a driver for people's career development decisions. And it is becoming much more about purpose. Like, an organization that is high performing but doesn't have a strong performance culture is seeing quite a few issues in attracting and retaining people, because we are now more attracted to the purpose, the difference that an organization makes. So these are some of the shifts that are making all this quite complex and individual and personal. I am interested in which of these psychological shifts you relate to. So for you, have you kind of in your career, can you see yourself more attracted by employability and flexibility, progression, or purpose? Like, which one of those feels like a biggest driver for you? We're going to do this. Alison, hold that thought. We're going to do this with stars on the screens. Previous PodPlusers, putting the stars on the screen. Which one of these feels like a shift that you have experienced in your relationship with work? People who are new, the way this works is, Sarah's already on it. So go towards the top of your screen. You should see view options, and then you click on that, and then you'll get annotate, and then stamp, and then star, or maybe a heart if you're feeling the love today. You do you. But view options, annotate, stamp, and star, and basically stick that symbol that you've chosen on which one of these is a shift that you relate to. Like, what is something that you're like, well, my relationship with work has changed because now I expect more, whatever it would be. And you can have multiple ones, but it's just interesting to see as a community what perhaps is a really big driver in terms of our development. So we expect flexibility, yeah, and we potentially might choose, or we might leave an organization that doesn't give it to us. The purpose one coming up quite a lot, and progression, yeah. So this now is very personal. It's very important. It's actually quite different. It is quite different. This is not a thing that's been around for ages. I personally think that there is more of a power balance now. So I think that we have, as employees, more power in terms of how we define our relationship with work than we might have had before, which I think is a very positive thing. So the fact that you can now go and get some of this stuff, and that you have the choice to have those conversations and the choice to do other things if your organization doesn't give you this, I think is a good thing. So what do we talk about on the podcast in order to help you to do this? So the first thing that we talk about is the idea of dating your job. Sarah and I got very excited about sort of like dating your job. So like I've like done online dating. So I think I had a bit more experience. Sarah's been with the same partner since she was like 15 or 16. She's probably here right now going, stop saying my secrets. And if she's not, she'll never know. But yeah, so I've actually done online dating. So I've filled in some of these forms. But the idea here is sort of, let's not talk about a relationship with your job in a really abstract way. Let's kind of make it like a bit more real. And so if you were going to write a dating profile for your perfect job, like what would you write? Like, I'm looking for, what would you say? Let me know in chat. If you were to write a dating profile, what would you write in your dating profile for your ideal relationship with work? What sort of things would you put in? I'm looking for fun, challenge, support, Steve says. I'm looking for challenge. I'm looking for autonomy. What else? Steve, I think, did you listen to the podcast, Steve? I talked about fun. Sarah is very anti me looking for fun. She just lets me go and do it. Who else? An open mind. Oh, Rima, that's lovely. Personal growth through meaningful conversations. Lovely. Exciting. Anyeka says, always keeping me interested. People that are drawing on the screen and putting stars on, I'm imagining that is because you're like, how do I turn this thing off? Click on the mouse bit on the toolbar and it will take you away from the stars and drawings. Opportunities, being creative, focus on my development. Brilliant. Yeah, so it's good. Like, how can we get what we want if we don't know what we want to get? So I think like writing your like ideal dating profile is an important thing. Mutual respect, where the key objectives are. Brilliant. Yeah, I was thinking I'm looking for, and I think it is worth taking a moment to sort of write this down. Like, what are you actually looking for from your work? What is the relationship that you really want? Because like, if you haven't got that clarity, it's hard to get it. Or you can treat it as like a tick box thing. If you find it easier to kind of almost have a list of things that you'd like from it. And less hierarchy, honesty. Also, what I think is quite interesting is my point around individuality, I think, comes through in what you're sharing. Like, actually, as a community, we're probably a bit biased towards learning and development because we're here talking about careers, but even within a perhaps biased community, there is actually quite a lot of individuality. So if you imagine extrapolating that to a wider group of people who are less into careers than us, you're going to get more. You're going to get more diversity, more difference, and it's important for us to recognise that. Okay, so practically some other things that you can do. So you've got a bit of clarity now. If you're going to date your job, what would that description look like? One of the things that we talked about on the podcast is this idea of like the shifts that we need to make. So if we get clear on what we're wanting from work, how do we go and get it? How do we redefine our relationship? And we talked about you've got to take the thing that you care about, and then you need to go and create it. So we don't want to wait for that thing to come to us. Remember, this is active, not passive. Quiet quitting, passive. Redefining our relationship, active, i.e., we have to take action. And so the start point needs to be like, well, what is it we care about? So you've written some things here, and I want to get us doing a bit of creating as a community in a second, but just to kind of show you how this idea works. So for example, one of the things that I care about, when I mention this, is kind of skills. I really care about sort of upskilling, learning, developing. I hate stagnating in anything. So I really want to be developing my skills. That's something that I really care about. So one of the things that I create and I use, we call it our 4E learning framework. Previous like PodPlusers and people who listen to podcasts might know this well, but we have this learning framework that I find really, really helpful. So I take the skill that I want to develop. So let's say I want to develop storytelling, for example, and then the 4E learning framework, I'll just write it down here in case it's useful to people that haven't come across it before. The first is experience. So I'm like, okay, what could I do on a day-to-day basis that might help me to develop that skill? So could I tell more stories in PodPlus, for example, about Sarah's relationship history? Could I experiment? Like, what could I try out for the first time? Like, maybe there's a new storytelling technique that I've never used before and I could just kind of give it a go. Exposure is who could I learn with and from? Like, what people do I consider brilliant at this, or what communities exist around this skill that I could get a bit closer to? And then the last is education, which tends to be a bit more formal, but like, what could I read or watch or listen to, or is there a course I could go on that could connect me with this skill set? And so I create that, I share it, I use it with other people, because that helps me to be more active in getting the thing that I need from work. So that's what I'm talking about. We've got to think clearly about what it is you really care about, and then we need to help you to create it. Claire said, I love the idea of the 4E learning framework on the podcast, but couldn't find it on the pod sheet. Yeah, it wasn't on the pod sheet, was it? Is there a chance? Well, I mean, you can screenshot what I've done, but what I might do is create an asset. I think Vivi, there's a royal we called Vivi who may be here today. If not, I will chat to her afterwards, but we might create a 4E, like we have these like pod notes and things. We can maybe create a 4E one if we haven't already done it, and share it on Instagram and LinkedIn. That might be helpful for you. So Claire, bear with, we will get that out for you. I'm just catching up with chat. What else have we got? Vivi is here, star. Okay, that one will happen because I have ideas, and Vivi has the ability that I do not have to make it happen. Okay, so we'll put that out. We'll put it on LinkedIn and Instagram depending on where you are. Okay, so I thought what we could do as a community today is help each other a little bit. Like, that's what this is all about, people helping people. And I thought we could maybe take one of the things that you care about, one of the things that you want a bit more from on work, and as a community we could think about, well, what could you create that could help yourself? What could you create that you could, give that to other people so that it might give you more of what you're looking for? This is a kind of give and gain thing. So for example, the more that I share the 4E learning framework with my team, the more that gets established as the way that we work, so the more that I get to do it for myself. Do you get it? That kind of give gain relationship. What have I written? Thanks Sue. I love this. Yeah, it's because I'm talking and I'm trying to work out where Sarah is, and I'm trying to write at the same time. That's why. But thank you. You are right. Experiments, which I think is the hardest part of this framework, just so everyone knows. But I also think it's one of the most fun parts. I think it's hard because people are a bit scared of doing experiments. But the trick with experiments, as a side point, is to signal to other people that you're doing one. So I wouldn't just randomly do some storytelling thing I'd never done before without signaling that I'm trying this out for the first time, because A, that takes the pressure off me doing it for the first time, and B, it sort of gives you like a reason, like, why has she gone random? It kind of gives you that insight because I've signaled that it's experiment. Also, the other thing with experiments is to get fast feedback. So let's say I said to you, I'm going to try a storytelling model out today that I've never done before, and I'd really appreciate your feedback. Then the way that I learn, and the point of this being a learning framework, is I learn from your feedback. So that is how you make experiments effective. You signal that you're doing one, and then you get fast feedback. We have done a podcast on it. But let's take a moment. I thought we could take one of the things you care about. So what I need is a willing volunteer. You've already shared some of the things you care about, but kind of, is anyone willing to share, like, what is the one thing they care about, that they care about most in redefining their relationship with work? And then we as a community will think about some things that you could maybe create so that you could get a bit more of that. What might be helpful is if you're willing to come off mute and talk to us a little bit about it. Reg, I might come back to your 4Es overlapping in a second. Has anyone got something they really care about that they would like some support from the community? Okay, so let's take Georgie's to begin with. Georgie says, ensure there is time within the working week to learn new skills. So the thing that Georgie cares about, everyone, is getting time to develop, okay? More time than you might have at the moment. If Georgie cares about getting more time to develop within her working week, what do you think that Georgie could create in order to achieve that? I have some ideas, but I don't want to put them out first because yours will probably be better. Let us know in chat. What do you think? Georgie cares about getting more time in the working week to develop skills. So what could Georgie create that could potentially help? I'm assuming Georgie is a her, but help Georgie and help other people. Set some time in her agenda. Okay, so kind of agenda time. So Georgie could diarize it in her diary. Oh, look at these ideas coming through now. So you've got time blocking coming through, a couple of people saying that. Learning buddy. So yeah, Lucy makes this point about accountability partner. This is a biggie. Accountability partners. Sarah Ellis is both my business partner, my friend, and my accountability partner. When I say, I want to learn more about this thing, she totally holds me to account. She's like, well, how are you making time for it? And then it's more of someone who checks in rather than checks up. But then she's not trying to catch me out. She's just trying to help me out, really. Super, super useful. Ways to organize time. So we've got buddies coming up quite a lot. Deep work, Onyeka says. A recap at the end of the week. That's nice. So Jenny says, like, take a walk, listen to a podcast. actually your learning environment, that could be another E, but I'm not going to add it. We don't need a 5E framework, but the environment that you create for your learning does make a big difference to the quality of your learning. And Jenny's point about taking a walk, walking unlocks like different parts of our brain, so it helps us to get more creative, solve problems. So if you say read a book and then go for a walk, your brain will absorb more of the learning from that book. So if you're kind of walking and reflecting on it, it's much better for you. Create a learning community. Yeah, Katie, that's where I'd gone. Because I'm trying to think about what could you create that benefits you and other people too. And I think if you created a learning community, that could be really, really positive. So you take the thing that you want to learn about, you maybe run, could just be like one session, like one like lunch and learn, and you bring people together, and then it becomes part of everyone's diaries, which makes it a bit easier to protect. So that's one of the things that I would do. Mark's the one pager. Some lovely ideas here. Oh, plan a reward. I love that. Yeah, give yourself a little reward. Perfect. Okay, should we do one more? I think we've got time for one more. What is something that let's do one more. What is something that someone cares about? So we've got more time for upskilling. Georgie says thank you. What else, everybody? Give us one more idea. What is something that you really care about, that you want if you're redefining your relationship with work? Okay, so Chloe is talking about exploring, getting some insight into other career possibilities. So let's talk about, she cares about career possibilities and maybe pivots. Possibilities and pivots. So if that is what Chloe cares about, then what could she create to get a bit more of that insight into possibilities and pivots? Vivi says a squiggly career safari. I nearly got really excited then because I was like, oh, someone's talking about squiggly career safaris, but Vivi's in the team, so it's a bit of a cheat. Squiggly career safaris are where you basically go around your business, and this could be like, you could do this in so many ways. This could be a meeting a month, like that could be a squiggly career safari. So every month I'm going to have one meeting in a different part of my company to understand a bit more about what they do. Or it could be a day a week for a month where maybe you do a little bit of shadowing. Like squiggly career safaris, you can do the short safari or the long one. Okay, so what have we got? So I'm going to put safaris up there that give you a good insight into some different possibilities. What else? Find someone who's made the switch. Yeah, so find a switcher. I love that one. I'm trying to get a snappy phrase for it, Hannah. I can't, because I think the brain's not working quite fast enough for it. But yeah, connect with someone who's done what you would like to do. What else have we got here? Get clear on your values, curious conversations. Oh, Georgie is now sharing ideas, everyone else. Dabble in a side hustle. Yes, I mean that. Oh, look, we've got 3 S's, everyone. You know I love alliteration. Side hustles, safaris, switches, and side hustles. Yeah, that's how I explored stuff. Amazing If for Sarah and I, as you'll know, was a side hustle, a side project for a really long time, like 8 years. And it really helped us to work out whether it was a possibility we wanted to progress. Like, it was really, really beneficial. What else have we got? Loads of things. Okay, brilliant. So you get the idea. What I have found in doing this with Sarah, and again in doing this with you now, is you'll get way more ideas about what you can create if you do this with somebody else. Like if you just go, I care about, and I could create, you'll come up with 1 or 2 ideas, and they might be good ideas, but you'll get so many more ideas if you could do this with other people. Could just be one person, could be like a little group. You could do it in a team meeting, for example, but it's a really good way of stimulating this and giving you those ideas for action to redefine your relationship with work. So we are at the end of time now. I hope that's been helpful. One thing for you to note is the pod sheet, which has been mentioned a little bit in the chat. So for all of our episodes, we produce a pod sheet. It is always on amazingif.com under the podcast page. It summarizes some of the key takeaways, got quotes, coach self questions, worth download. It's free. You can share it, do what you would like with it. Second thing is we will either repost if we've already created it, or we will recreate the 4E learning plan. And Reg, to the point on they're overlapping. Yeah, they are overlapping, but I would encourage you to make it quite distinctive. Like experiences, what am I doing in my day-to-day job? Because the most effective way that we learn is by doing. Like 70%, 75% of our knowledge is retained when we actually take action. Experiment is like doing it for the first time, taking a bit of a risk. So I want you to kind of push yourself a little bit more with the experiments. Exposure is about people, connection, collaboration, community, and education is more formal, like deep learning. So even though they overlap, it's all about learning. I would encourage you to keep it distinct, because then you'll just create more learning. And coming up, next one that we are recording today is on career control, which in a squiggly career is almost a bit of a tension with it, because squiggly careers are unpredictable. So how can you take control? But we're not trying to get you to preempt or predict what's going on in your career, but we do want you to be prepared. We want you to have control of yourself and your response to the change that's inevitable. So that is the podcast that Sarah and I are recording today. It will be out next Tuesday, and we will talk about it together next Thursday for anyone that wants to come back. But thank you very much for being here. I hope it's delivered on what previous PodPlusers come back for, and new PodPlusers. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we get to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Have a brilliant rest of your week. See you all soon. Bye. Bye for now.